Hi, everyone. This is an explanatory talk on linear perspective and specifically 1-point perspective, which I'm asking you to use in Project 1 to represent three-dimensional space on the two-dimensional picture plane in your painting. So I'm reading from a book called Perspective Drawing Handbook by a man named Joseph D'Amalio. This is chapter 5, Principal Aids, Vanishing Points and Eye Level, Horizon Line. So vanishing points. I'll read the introduction first. In views of real life, and therefore in realistic pictures, the eye level or horizon line is rarely visible, and vanishing points virtually never are. So the full significance of these concepts must be clearly understood. Working with an awareness of them and actually sketching them in time are perspective drawing prerequisites. Vanishing points. Any two or more lines that are in reality parallel will, if extended indefinitely, appear to come together or meet at a point. This point is called the vanishing point of these lines. So right here at the end of the railroad tracks would be the vanishing point. The classic and still best example of this phenomenon is the tracks of a railroad. The rails, in reality parallel, appear to converge and ultimately meet at a point in the distant horizon. Many historical paintings of church interiors look something like this. If all the column capitals on one side and then all the column bases were connected and these lines brought back into the picture, they would meet at the same point as other similarly oriented parallel lines, such as the center aisle or the procession. The only exception to this occurs when the parallel lines are also parallel to the observer's face and to the picture plane. And we're looking at a diagram here that shows that. In this case, they neither recede nor converge and therefore do not have a vanishing point. For example, the edges of the brick wall and all its vertical and horizontal joints are exactly parallel to the observer's face and to the picture plane. Therefore, the verticals still appear vertical and the horizontals still appear horizontal and parallel to one another. So this is a good example. Take a look at this illustration. Right at the bottom then, or towards the bottom of the handout, second page, what locates the vanishing line for all horizon lines? And you have another diagram which shows the perpendicular eye gaze of the viewer, which is also called eye level. So I'm going to read on. We've seen that this important line is straight and horizontal, but what determines its location? Very simply, it is always on the same level as the observer's eyes. In other words, the observer's eye level, an imaginary plane at the level of the eyes and parallel to the ground, dictates the location of the vanishing line for all horizontals in a given drawing. Another diagram here at the bottom of the second page. A side view of the drawing above will show the eye level and the ground plane from their edges and therefore depict them as parallel horizontal lines. So here's a nice little diagram of a man looking at an image. Notice that the eye level, if this is the image that he's looking at, is rather high. If we now look at the picture plane, we again see the eye level plane in edge on view as a line. Here, though, the line also represents the projection onto the picture plane, notice. Whether the observer jumped or kneeled and so raised or lowered his eye level, this relationship would remain unchanged. Therefore, the eye level not only dictates but is synonymous with the vanishing line for horizontal lines. And at the third page or third example that you should look at in this handout is this one. And it shows somebody playing a guitar. I found it online actually. And here, all receding edges of the buildings in this 1-point perspective photo angle towards the single vanishing point. The position of the vanishing point tells us the photographer was crouching down with his eye level lowered. So notice that in this, and you basically frame the image that you are going to be drawing or painting, and choose an eye level. So in this case, it was a little bit low. So the viewer is looking up at the subject. So you don't really have to worry about that. I'm speaking directly to my class. You don't really have to worry about this. I hope that these handouts give you a little bit more insight as to what linear perspective is. But you must decide what exactly the frame of your image is and what your eye level is. When you draw, you'll just be tracing over the shapes, and I will have concurred with you that this is the best photo, that this is the one that you want to draw or paint for your project one, and that it is 1 point perspective. Okay, so to give you, I am going to go back into project one here and show you a few examples of famous artists' work that used 1 point linear perspective. This is Van Gogh, paintings by Van Gogh or drawings by Van Gogh. And because he's well known, I thought you'd enjoy seeing that he used 1 point linear perspective quite a lot in his work. This is view with a windmill. Notice that the trees go to one line leading to a vanishing point, which is probably somewhere on the little left of center, and another line that all lead to that vanishing point. This is a road that he did, same thing. And a path where the vanishing point, or lines of the field where the vanishing point is probably right above the house near the tree. Some other examples would be some work that was done in my classes, and these are paintings in grayscale. So put across here, and notice that the lines here of the building and the other side of the brick pathway also lead to one vanishing point on a horizon line. When this is, in this case, low, again, low in the picture. Another one where the vanishing point is actually way outside to the left of the picture. And another one where the vanishing point would be somewhere in the white area, the lit white area here. All 1 point perspective. Let's see. I looked online and came up with a few examples, examples that I had seen also online, and just to show you that in magazines, articles, online writings and photographs. Here's one, a photograph where this is 1 point perspective. Another picture here, 1 point perspective is being used. Another one, 1 point perspective. A drawing. So a student asked me to show photos of what I would consider viable photos for this project. And I actually included the one that I did as an example painting for project one. So this was that one, that picture, looking up my street. So my eye level is high in this image. The viewer's eye level is high. So I'm looking down actually at most of the picture. This is the hallway in my house, and the eye level would be somewhere in the middle near the knob on that level. And where the vanishing point is always on the horizon line, which is your eye level. and at one looking down a street in my town, Pasadena, and yeah, same thing, would be 1 point perspective. Notice also that I'm asking you to use geometric and organic shapes. And this one would have mostly geometric shapes, so it might not be as good for this project. This one definitely has the geometric shapes of the street and the houses, buildings, and the organic shapes would be the trees and the vegetation. And one last note, there is a perspective grid in Illustrator. And you can use it or not, whether it helps you or not. It may serve as a guide if you want to lay it over your picture and just look at how it works on top of your picture. I don't use it too much when I'm drawing, when I'm tracing the shapes of a photo, because I don't really need to, as long as I know that it is 1 point perspective. So I thought though that I should show it to you since we're using Illustrator. So here's the hallway that I showed you. And I put up the perspective grid, which you can find in Illustrator under View, in the View menu. So notice I go to the View menu and I say Show Perspective Grid. I go down and I make sure the perspective grid, I click on it or toggle to it, making it active. And then you can go to 1 point perspective or 2 point perspective, move over and let go on that. And that'll give you the perspective grid that you need. So I let go on 1 point perspective and then said normal view. And that's what I brought up. That's my perspective grid here. So you can manipulate that grid with the perspective grid tool right here, and it brings up handles where you can move the grid around. I'm going to turn off the photo, the layer of the photo, so that you can see what I'm talking about. So these handles allow you to move the grid. For instance, right now, the perspective grid on the right-hand side, which defines the right side of the perspective grid, and the 1 point, the vanishing point would be right here, and you could move that up and down. This is the horizon line, the eye level of the viewer. So if I wanted to move this blue plane to the left to define the other side of the wall in the hallway, you could move it, turn the photo on again, and then move it so that it works, it lays over the exact plane that you're trying to draw or define. But I don't think you need to do this for this project because I think all you do is need to draw over the shapes. And you will have already determined with me in a meeting with me or an email conversation with me that this photo that you've picked has 1 point linear perspective. Okay, email me questions about this if you wish, and I hope that made the choosing of your photo with linear perspective a bit clearer. Thank you.